Lewis. Oh, what's cutting that blossom?
I don't know. Maybe they're running up and down in the studio.
My son him changed to Alexis.
Baby? What happened to me then? Let me start over. President of the Trade Union Council, Andre Lewis.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And then we're going to get into another topic a little later, maybe in about 20 or 25 minutes or so. But we're going to start with Mr. Lewis. He's here to, what should I say, clarify a recent statement made as it relates to, coming from officials in the Ministry of Health. Let's put it that way. So good morning to Mr. Lewis. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm okay in the context. We're okay given the fact that the TUC, as you know, is training its members, leaders, etc. But it's also extremely crucial period for all of us, not only in Grenada, but throughout the region and the world, the corona virus.
Exactly.
And therefore we need to take preventative measures as much as possible and to also put systems in place to minimize, because it may be already impossible to prevent it from reaching our shores, but we can do things to minimize its impact upon us.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. The statement that you wanted to clarify, shed some light on the circumstances.
Basically, this morning I heard a repeat of GBN News that was carried last night. Mm-hmm. And in that news, the Minister for Health also almost said help, and we really need help in truth, indicated that the Grenada Trade Union Council met with the Ministry of Health sometime last week on the matter of the coronavirus. I want to say that this is the furthest from the truth. As a matter of fact, we wrote the Minister of Health on the 24th of February requesting certain answers to some concerns that we had. That was of concern to not just the TUC, but the labor movement and the population as a whole, as to what was being done to help protect our country from that threat. We then followed up with a letter addressed to the Minister again on the 3rd of March and proposing to meet urgently on the 6th of March. As we speak right now, Blossom, we have not had even an acknowledgement from the Minister of Health to our request to meet. Let me repeat. As we speak right now, we have not even had an acknowledgement from the Minister of Health to the 2 letters that we wrote. The first letter, as I indicated, was a follow-up to the correct position taken by the government that as of the 1st of February, there will be a number of restrictions for people who would have traveled to and from certain countries, including China, etc., and nationals and non-nationals returning, the aspect of being quarantined, etc. And we supported this. What we did is that we took the position paper of the government and we wrote that letter and then asked whether or not those positions were followed up on. What we are seeking was advice, was answers, so that we can help in disseminating information to our members and the general population. We have had absolutely no response. On the 3rd of March, we wrote the minister, and it is captioned, "Request for urgent meeting to protect workers from the threat of the coronavirus." And I think it is important for us just to read this letter. The Grenada Trade Union Council extends its compliments to the Minister for Health and the staff of the said ministry. The GTUC writes further to its letter of February 24th, wherein it raised several concerns and sought answers in relation to Grenada's response to the coronavirus. The GTUC now takes this opportunity to urgently raise concerns regarding Grenada's level of specific preparation and plans to equip our workers with the necessary equipment and information to help minimize the exposure to contracting the disease. Whereas some emphasis may have been placed on our international airport as a point of entry, we are very concerned about workers who are exposed to the other ports and of entry, such as on the seaports. We are very concerned about the workers such as marine pilots, customs officers, linesmen, and others in the marine industry. We are also concerned about workers in the health sector, emergency services, hotels, and public spaces. The Grenada Trade Union Council calls upon government to 1. Meet urgently with the Grenada Trade Union Council and its affiliates since we have members in the healthcare, emergency service, air and seaports, border control, hotels, and public spaces who stands a higher risk of exposure to the disease. 2, to recognize that COVID-19 is an occupational safety and health threat. 3, provide comprehensive personal protective equipment to all frontline workers and those who may encounter infected people. 4, respect the rights of all workers to remove themselves from situations that they consider poses an imminent or serious danger to life or health in keeping with Section 74(2)(e) of the Employment Act. And 5, to ensure that no worker suffers any loss of pay during any period of quarantine. The GTUC makes it clear that the above applies to all workers in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, whether unionized or ununionized, casual, contract, or permanent in the formal and informal sectors. And listen to this. The Grenada Trades Union Council calls for an urgent meeting with the Minister for Health and other relevant personnel from the Ministry of Health to be held on Friday, March 6 at 0900 hours. Please be assured of the GTC's consideration. As we speak, there has not been even a note of acknowledgement to our request. So when I heard the minister, and I heard it last night, indicating that the ministry met with the TUC, unless there is a second TUC that I'm not aware of, certainly is not this TUC that we currently lead. Let me make it clear. All the indications that he said, we stand by it. In other words, we are prepared, and we have said in other quarters, and other officials have said, that we need information to disseminate. This is a serious matter, but it is not correct to say that the Ministry of Health met with the Grenada Trades Union Council. We have requested that meeting, and up to now, we have not even had a letter or a response of acknowledgement. The letter was emailed. There was not even anything indicating that we have received your correspondence.
What sort of information are you seeking from the ministry? Well,
certainly professional information, because this is scientific. We need to be able to get information prepared by the ministry for the avoidance of any doubt, so that we can pass to our members. We need to know where are we with the protective equipment. We need to know what has been done in terms of whether or not brigades have been organized, because we have members in public spaces. It is not only at the airport. It is not only at the seaport. We have people who are dealing with cash. Right? We have our hotel workers. And we will be sending out today a correspondence to all of our affiliates and all of our members, which will make a demand of the employers as follows. All the areas that we have identified in terms of the public spaces, the hotel industry, health sector, marine pilots, airport, seaport. So all of the frontline and public spaces where workers are more exposed, yes, to the possibility of that threat. We will be demanding that disposable gloves must be provided to all these workers. We are also demanding that hand sanitizers, dispensing station must be provided in accessible locations. For workers internally, we need to ensure that there should be no sharing of pens. And anyone who shares pens, etc., should use hand sanitizers. And why did we move to that stage? Because we are all aware that the World Health Organization for the Caribbean respect to COVID-19 has raised the alert. Yes, it is not a pandemic. It has been declared, and therefore, it is no longer about doing one today and one tomorrow. We have to be organized and we have to show urgency. I'm not aware that there is a meeting this evening. There is a rally this evening. There is a meeting with the different stakeholders, but I consider this a rally. We will attend. But because different groups will be coming and different individuals will be there, and most of us will be trying to get our views in, it will not be as targeted as the TUC meeting with the Ministry of Health. At the end of the day, the Grenada Trades Union Council is the organized voice for workers in this country, whether unionized or ununionized. The fact that we wrote 2 letters to the Minister for Health, asking not to just meet with the minister, because the minister is not a professional. Health is not his expertise. But we asked to meet with the minister and other relevant personnel from the Ministry of Health. So whether the minister was there or not, we'd have liked for him to be there because he deals with policies. But we have not had, the TUC is still awaiting from the 24th of February, even an acknowledgement or a response.
What steps is the TUC prepared to take to protect its workers?
Well, to make the demands to the individual employers to keep calling upon the government in the first instance, because this is a serious matter. Let me indicate here, this should not be a matter of contention. This is where we should all be working together on the same page. Yes, we know efforts have been made. So we are not here saying that efforts have not been made. We know that meetings have been held with airport workers, Port Authority workers, including seamen, customs, TAU members, etc. But this is broader than just this group of workers now. And had the minister placed urgency on our demands and our requests, we would have been in a better position to be on the ground, disseminating information to our members. Because we accept, as I say, we are not professionals, and therefore we are guided by the scientists, the World Health Organization. They have indicated that the best form of protection is what is our common hygiene practice. So we need to be re-emphasizing these, but we need to be able to get the necessary information from the relevant body. And we need to hear more from the healthcare professionals and less from the minister on those specific issues. That's our view. This is not about salary. This is not about pension. This is about health. And this is not about TUC members. This is not just about workers, but this is about the nation. And we have a responsibility as the labor movement, as organized labor, to speak on behalf of all of our people. And we are at a loss. In other words, it is one thing to hear comments being made on the radio and television, but the most important aspect of dealing on the ground, as we had requested that meeting, so the actions of the minister, and I'm saying the minister because he has ultimate responsibility as a minister, and the government ultimately must be held responsible for what we consider as not an urgent enough response to the matter. And here, we know that there are challenges with equipment. We know that. But at least the least that can be done is to meet with the relevant stakeholders, and in this case, the TUC. I'm not speaking about this mass rally this evening. As a matter of fact, the meeting is expected to be so large that it had been moved from Cabinet Room to the National Stadium in one of the VIP rooms. So what it tells you, there's a high interest to meet, but we want to deal with specifics. So we are going to the meeting. And just do not lump us in a mass rally, because in a rally, everyone will be speaking.
And seeking their own interests.
Yes, and this is good, because when everyone raises matters of specific concerns to them, then what we can do is to come up with a national approach, because it is not only about us. Are you following me?
Understood.
Right? But when you have the different interests at play, you then have to cipher out that national approach. What we could have done, given our expertise, and we are absolutely certain that we have the level of expertise and concern as how to address even the psychological impact on the workers and the population. Because apart from the aspect of the threat to health, is the aspect of the mind. The aspect of the mind. And that is where we can also play an extremely important role. So we can be calling, as we have been doing, on our members and the population. Let me repeat again. Yes, we have a responsibility for our direct members. And we are not shying away from this. That's our responsibility. But our responsibility goes beyond our direct members. It's about the population. Whether you're an employer, whether you work in the health sector, whether you are unemployed, whether you're a student, our concern, the TUC's concern, is broad. And that is why we asked for this urgent meeting. We wrote on the 24th.
So let me ask, how were the letters sent?
It was emailed, we called.
Let me play.
No, but we are aware that they got it.
Okay, I was about to ask.
And we also sent it. That's what we do. We have learned the lessons from the past, where some people may claim that they didn't get it. As a matter of fact, the very said minister, in one of his press conferences, I think last week or week before, indicated that he received a letter, I was told, right, from the TUC.
Okay.
He has not, and the ministry has not, responded to us. We have been calling. The TUC Secretariat has been calling the ministry to follow up. They have, but they have not even had the courtesy. Not even the courtesy to respond. As I say, there is a rally this evening. We are going. We are going to that meeting. It's a mass meeting. It's a meeting, when I say a mass meeting, of the different stakeholders. And that meeting has been planned for today, as we know since last week. But this thing is a serious matter.
After this meeting, after the rally, as you put it, do you still think the TUC would need an individual meeting?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely, because I am absolutely certain, we are sure that in today's meeting, we will not be able to address all of the concerns that we have and to pinpoint specific actions. Time just will not permit it. Time just will not permit it. It is important. As a matter of fact, a meeting like today will also most likely bring to our attention some issues or ideas that we may not have considered. We do not have all the answers. We do not know all the concerns. So it is important, as I say, in a session like this, which ought to have been done before, if we are treating this matter seriously as we ought to be treating it, it would have been done before. Let me just jump on another matter.
Before you jump on a matter, let me just take a break and come back.
Sure.
Yeah, just one moment. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and come back inside. This is To The Point. Keep it locked to Classic and the GBN.
Hey, you! Who are you? Are you bold, vibrant, full of color and life, with energy waiting to just burst out? That youthful vibe. Or are you a classic? You love the old school, but you still know how to keep it relevant. Kinda like a retro mix. Nah? Hey, maybe you're just refined. A fine, classy, chic piece of refined elegance. No matter who you are, Sissons has that outside color to match that inside feeling. Visit any of our retail or distribution outlets and ask for our tropical modern color collection. Sissons, good looks that lasts.
So the time for fetting and having fun is here, but that doesn't mean you have to be an irresponsible parent as you go about it. This carnival season, you can make a difference by keeping a watchful eye on your children, knowing where they are and whom they're with, ensuring they attend age-appropriate events, making sure they're not exposed to dangerous situations or activities involving drugs, alcohol, or sex, and of course, leading by example. Remember, even though it's carnival, your first responsibility is to your child. A message from the Child Protection Authority of Grenada, working in the best interest for the greatest good of the child.
part of our social media revamp, the GBN is committed on providing accurate information by just one click through our social media platforms. You can now follow our Facebook page at GBN Television, together with our sister stations Classic FM Grenada and Hot FM Grenada. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Grenada Broadcasting Network. They say one picture is worth 1,000 words. Now you have the opportunity to follow us on Instagram at GBN_news, and our newly added WhatsApp feature to our news and current affairs department on telephone number 473-405-3052. GBN, with you, anywhere, everywhere.
When you think of Grenville Cooperative Credit Union, what comes to mind? A reliable financial institution that has stood the test of time. Maybe you think about the convenience and quality financial service they provide. Do you think about their readiness to help you retire, achieve your academic goals, build your dream home, buy the piece of land or the elegant car? Or maybe the convenience of their different locations, Jubilee Street in Grenville, the sub-office at Belmont Estate, or the new outlet on Lucas Street in St. George's in the Derek Sylvester building. Maybe you always consider how they're always a phone call away. 442-8602 or 438-4228. They're also online, www.grencu.org. No matter what comes to mind, remember, Grenville Cooperative Credit Union is the best place to save and to borrow, working with you to make your brighter tomorrow.
See it first on GBN. All the stories, from politics to industrial unrest. Tourism. Light it up. Light it up.
Station to Grenada.
Entertainment. Sports and culture.
Great shot there of Anderson Peters from Grenada, the Commonwealth Games bronze medalist.
See more on GBN, your most credible source for information. Nightly at 7.
Breaking barriers. Going beyond the ordinary. Examining the stories beyond what meets the eyes. GBN gets to the meat of the matter. Join us on GBN Television, Classic Radio, gbn.gd, or on Facebook via your smartphones and other devices. We take you beyond the headlines every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. We are GBN, rated number 1.
Welcome back to The Point. We're speaking with President of the Trades Union Council, Andre Lewis, and it's part of, what should I call it, the education drive as it relates to dealing with coronavirus and the TUC's stance in the matter. One of the questions, before I open the phone lines, there was something that I wanted to ask. In the letter that you sent to the minister, was it directed? Was it addressed to the minister?
It was addressed to the minister.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the letter to the minister, you mentioned one of the things that you were asking for is that no docking of pay for public servants who are quarantined.
Not just public servants, but any worker.
Is this a major concern?
It must
Something
be.
that you heard in the pipeline?
No, well, we have a responsibility to look at what is possible. If a worker, and any worker, I want to repeat that this concern, as we indicated in the letter, is not just about unionized workers. It's not just about public workers or private workers. Any worker who will be quarantined, if ever, ought not to suffer any loss of pay. Yes, so we pointed that out, and because we see this as a health and safety issue, and remember these are preventative measures taken to avoid the spread of a disease that can wreak havoc on the population. And therefore, no one should suffer any loss of benefits, any loss of pay for being quarantined. I want to go further. We need to also pay serious attention to, if I as a worker turns up to work and I'm showing certain symptoms, runny nose, fever, and we are not, none of us would be know for sure what it is, because remember, some of the symptoms, according to the experts, are similar to the common cold. And I am sent back home, or advised to stay at home. There's a question of certified and uncertified leave. We are of the opinion that this ought not to be taken from what is our regular guaranteed leave. So in most collective agreement, and even under the labor code, one have a period of uncertified sick leave before you could be written to or any disciplinary action taken against you. Anything related to this coronavirus ought not to impact upon these protected benefits and rights of the worker. I know it is something that we'll have to trash out, because I know there could be the issue of
taking advantage,
etc. I want to be upfront about that. So we have to have a serious discussion on that. But we're an employer. Would ask someone to return home, to stay at home, because you need to protect the rest of your staff, which is understandable. The question would arise: what penalties, if ever, should that worker suffer? Whereas under normal circumstances, you would be accommodated. If you just have a slight, you're not really feeling too well, right? Most employers would even want you to come out. No, they will advise you to stay at home. And where the issue of uncertified sick leave is for a duration of 2 days, anything after 2 days, you have to provide a medical certificate. Should a worker have to go to a doctor and get a medical certificate, where in the worker's opinion they could have worked, but to be safe, and I'm agreeing with this, prevention is better than cure. So these are issues that would have to be addressed. And the question of the teachers teaching the class, where everyone is speaking. Yes, and we know, we have been told that it can be spread through fluids in the air. And therefore I want to address a matter of the question of isolation unit being placed at the General Hospital. Our members and our workers and the population will have a concern about that. I know that there may be scientific arguments, and I say we are not doctors, we are not in that field, but we are certain that no one could absolutely rule out that there may be a possibility of this disease could be spread through aerosol, through the air. So far it has not been said, but one has to be careful. And therefore, the question that would arise: shouldn't we do everything to ensure that the isolation unit is away from people as much as is possible? And therefore, the people who should be interacting in that environment or being exposed to the possibility of that environment would be those who are it is necessary for them to be there, meaning that you'll be trained and you'll have your proper protective equipment. Our workers at the General Hospital and elsewhere will not be comfortable. And I'm not asking workers to use it, but I want to remind the powers that be that the Employment Act gives the worker the right to remove him or herself from any environment that they think may be a threat to their life or their health. It is not something that will be used willy-nilly, but in our planning, we need to bear those things in mind. It is not just about the science, because what we have found is that the science, the professionals, even if they have doubts in their mind, will only make concrete statement when they have the evidence. So it may be a week from now that there may be evidence that it can be spread through aerosol, through the air. And then it might be too late for us. So what we need to do is in our planning is to identify some area away from where our workers and staff will be in almost constant contact with that environment. And the doors will be opened. Yes, people would be in and out. So we want this to be brought in mind.
What the acting chief medical officer, Dr. Martin, said was that, well, like you pointed out, the science hasn't proven that it is airborne, that it could be spread through the air. And for the officials have noted that if there's a partition or a door in the area blocking off the isolation unit from other parts of whichever building it's in, that it can be deemed safe. He assured that proper precautionary measures as it relates to the disposal of the material and equipment used while testing the patients, if we do get patients, that it will be properly disposed of.
And I have tremendous respect for Dr. Martin. As a matter of fact, I want to take our hats off to Dr. Martin, Dr. Mitchell, and the rest of the team. Dr. Martin has consistently demonstrated, not just now, that he's a people's person. He's guided by love for people. And I can say so with absolute authority because he works very closely with our health and safety officer, Comrade Godwin Thomas, and Tau, in addressing matters of concern, health concern for workers. So I have tremendous respect for Dr. Martin. However, the science have not yet said, and therefore we need to be. The question that would arise.
Err on the side of caution.
Yes, correct. And this is not for Dr. Martin. He's a practitioner. The policymakers have to address this matter. Let us err on the side of caution. I mean, if there is an emergency right now, if someone comes down and there isn't something, but we have time. We have time. We haven't had any, to the best of our knowledge, anyone identified as yet. Italy has closed down a complete province. Yes? The United States has banned travel from Europe for 30 days. Let us do what we could, and I'm sure that we can do a lot, to minimize the possible impact. And one of it must be the preparation for if and when someone is identified with the virus. And therefore, where do we keep that person to get the best possible care and at the same time minimize the possible risk to the uninfected people.
Let's go to the phone lines.
Sure.
The phones have been ringing. If we can please keep our comments, questions, queries, concerns 1 minute or less. We could skip the preamble, just get straight to the questions in the interest of time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, go ahead, please.
What I find so strange, they are telling you to keep away from somebody possible who has the virus. As they would say, they're using meters, 3 meters. Maybe, I have an idea how many feet. Maybe you can tell the public how many feet. Anyhow, if this is the case, what the people are trying to tell me, that after it goes about 6 feet plus, 9 feet plus, that the virus have a tendency to die. Because you telling me that if you close a door and some are joined in a place where they have these people with the virus would not be able to enter through the door, or maybe this door wouldn't be able to open at all, or shouldn't open at all, because the virus not moving. Or as soon as the virus reach 9 feet, it died. And this is what have me beaten.
All right, thank you, caller. Thank you very much. I could respond?
Sure, well, it's me and you are here. I am not an expert, you know. I am concerned about
I'm going off of what Dr. Martin has been here on numerous occasions, so I'm going off of what he has said as well as information that I've read. The distance is 3 feet, and they're calling for 3 feet to alleviate or to eliminate the spread of the virus through the fluids that may come from person to person, not necessarily touch a face and touch a doorknob, but they're talking about if I'm speaking to Mr. Lewis and I sneeze, chances are the fluids from my nose and my mouth may not go further than 3 feet. Or if I cough, the fluids won't go further than 3 feet. That's why the 3 feet is advised, not necessarily touching the doorknob and the door and the so on and so forth. It's for the close proximity to infected people and the immediate spread of the virus through sneezing and coughing. Any comments?
No,
yeah?
I mean, we need to take our precautions as much as possible. No?
Agreed. Good morning.
Morning. Andre, my concern, it was announced yesterday that the isolation ward would be the private block at the General Hospital. We know that the pediatric ward is next door. What is your take on that? Thank you.
Well, as I said, I would not venture into the professional, but I must be concerned. We can all avoid these concerns if an isolated unit is placed away from these locations. The medical practitioners must take into account, and the policymakers must take into account, the psychological impact. This is not only just about science. This is also about putting at ease, as much as is possible, the mindset of our people. So your question is absolutely valid. I cannot give a scientific response, but what I do know is that if the unit is not placed there, we would not have that concern. And therefore, it will make it easier for all of us to be on the same page in doing what is necessary to help minimize the impact of the disease. It is not just scientific, it is not just about the medicine, but it's also psychological.
I saw a suggestion for the isolation unit to be placed. What is the name of the building? Down by the airport. An abandoned building down by the airport. Goodness gracious, I can't remember the name of the building. I'll have to look for it. To properly ask that question. Let's go back to the phone lines in the meantime. Good morning.
Good morning, sister. I just come back. You know, long ago they used to keep those patients for 21 days. And you know, down by the sea, they used to call it the, I forget the name of the place down by the airport down there. See the two wall that break down there, you had two kind of building that used to be there. To hold the same set of people, it's not now this thing going ahead. Not now. And you know, they used to bathe them, you know where they bathing this patient? In the sea. They take them and they go out in the sea and bathe them. They pass in the back and they go straight down to the seawater. They call down there the, I forget the name of the building down there. But it's down somewhere down by the airport too, somewhere down there. They used to have these two buildings, one for man and one for women.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jacob. What you said, that was for leprosy?
My memory of what our parents would have told us, and she speak about bathing, I may be incorrect about this, but right. But what it addresses is the principle of isolation. And there isn't any reason why the government of the day cannot get some emergency funding from some of our dearest friends to be able to put something somewhere as a matter of urgency. As I say, it has not yet happened. If in the process of building it, we need to isolate somewhere, then one would have to understand and accept that certain, what you call managing risk will have to be taken. Yes? But let us do what is best for us.
Back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. I have a suggestion. What about the hospital that they're building newly? Why don't they think of using a part of that for isolating situation? The new hospital that they're building and is incomplete. Why don't they speed up some kind of part of it for that purpose? Thank you.
That could be a good suggestion, but it boils down to we need a separate and isolated place.
I was going to ask, is that still too close for comfort if they're using new
look, as I said, I I'm not trained in that area, but what I do know is that it would not be as close as having just a partition separating. And not only this, having about probably a unit that is probably about 20 feet or so away from the children's ward.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, could you turn on the volume on your...
Yeah, I know. Okay, just one second. Yeah. Okay, I have two different objects I'm using. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, it's a long time I haven't been on this program, but I tuned in a while ago and I heard Mr. Lewis mention the issue of the psychological issue, and I want to quite agree with him. In fact, if you go to St. George's, which is the only place I've been able to go in terms of Grenada since the outbreak of this thing, you'll see from Friday I've been experiencing a sort of unnecessary panic, which unfortunately, if we had the kind of leadership in the country where to galvanize people's attention, we might have been able to minimize, and people are treating one another unnecessarily unkind because of that. And I don't think it's intentional. They're just fighting to death. So I would suggest one of the things we really need, and maybe Andrew in a better position, we need to find ways that find sense. How are we sure that even the media that we have some level of access to or control is not misleading people in terms of all the various radio stations? Do we have something like, for instance, that all of them could be broadcasting at the same time, so that at least all the listeners and viewers in the various media could be hearing the same word? Because I think this thing is not, although it's dangerous, we could take a more proactive approach in which we don't really make ourselves mad or kill ourselves before time. So the idea is that we need to really have a concerted effort to decide what is important at the moment. And we need to feel the leadership, not to hear it. We need to feel it. And I don't think that is what is happening right now.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, I just started off by calling me Mr. Lewis and then you end up as Andre. Comrade, it's good hearing you. Yes, we must try to avoid panic as much as is possible. And that is why the TUC took a responsible position by asking to meet with the Minister of Labour. And we are on air this morning simply because the comments made by the Minister last night was furthest from the truth. We needed to clear that up because our members and even executive members of the TUC, including myself, was trying to find out when was that meeting held. They say unless there's a second TUC. So whatever we do, and especially in a period like now, we need to be as accurate as is possible and do not try to reassure people by speaking untruths. Because when these untruths are shown to be what they are, they will further lead to mistrust. So we are not here to lend to any panic. We are here to do the opposite, to call on our members, the whole population, our members, non-members, and the population, to pay particular attention to what is called your everyday general hygiene. Wash your hands before and after certain things. You cannot wash your hands too many times. You cannot be too clean in a period like now. Avoid touching items. When you go to the supermarket, do not just touch all the different items. Pay attention to your general hygiene. That can help minimize the risk. It is believed only about 2 weeks ago, the CCL was in a regional discussion, and the projection was that certainly by April, there would have been most likely a case in what we call Eastern Caribbean, or the English-speaking Caribbean. But we have heard that there would have been a case. Is there a case in, is it St. I don't want to call it
St. Vincent?
St. Vincent, yeah. I don't want to say something that was not said and therefore create panic. So it is here. It is here.
I think.
Yeah, it is here. it is like saying that it is in St. George, and therefore St. Andrew do not have to worry. But St. Vincent is part of the Windward Islands, so therefore it is here.
I find St. Vincent is greener and greener.
It is here.
I was looking for the name of the building, but I can't find it. Let me go back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Good morning to the panelists. Good morning. Hello?
Yes, morning. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Tao Union. I find unions, they don't help people, because I remember something happened to a young lady, and you see, union, when you're single, they don't help you. If it's something big, they don't help you. Because that young lady, she catch hell and she never get nothing to the Bramland, and she never got nothing. You know, I thought Tao was a better union than, but they're not. Number two, the coronavirus. Right now, the St. George's University, they are sending home all the students, they're sending them back to the country, right? And it could be good, it could be bad, because they could be going, and if it's a month they go for, maybe when they're coming back, they could bring more than when they leave. So I don't know if the Ministry of Health or who, what they're doing about it, but if they have to go, the schools that they have to go, because the students are already buying things to pack their things to go. So let's see what's going to happen. Anyway, have a nice day.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, my brother, thanks. Have a great day yourself, but I would want to suggest that probably GBN reaches out to SGU, because our union represents the workers at SGU. We heard about that report, but there is a different twist to this. And because I'm not fully aware of all of the details, I would not want to give, but I want to ask GBN, because this comment has been made to reach out to SGU. It has to do with some decisions taken in the U.S. in terms of the teachers. As I say, I cannot give much specific, but it will be important. And because the caller has raised it, and because we also represent workers at SGU, the technical and allied workers represent workers at SGU, it would be important for GBN, because it had been raised here, or any other media house, to try to get to the bottom of this matter. It will be important.
What I can say, it is on the list of things to do for the newsroom. I'm not sure the progress made. I haven't been in the newsroom much for the morning, but I know that that's one of the things that they wanted to do this morning.
Okay.
Yes. Back to the phone lines. Good morning.
Yes, dear. Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad.
Yes. I just want to say, Blossom, that that concern by the Trade Union Council about the docking of not only the members, possible deduction of the members' pay, because even in case they are isolated for any period of time, I think it's very justified to have that thought and to take that measure to ensure that it doesn't happen. Because in recent times, when we had the contention between government and teachers, it was a legal act by withholding your labor because of industrial action, and the pay was docked. Now you have people who are maybe daily paid workers, although they might be permanent, but they work daily. And so if one of them is isolated for, say, 14 days, the employer can say, well, you didn't work. So I think it's a very justifiable concern, and I want to compliment the trade unions for taking that initiative. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's an extremely valid point, not just about what the TUC have said. We have indicated that we are speaking on behalf of all workers, but we also, there are the daily paid workers outside, like construction workers, etc., who, once they miss one day, for whatever reason, most 98% of the times they are not being paid. Mm-hmm. Think about a family. Think about what would that mean. So I want to thank the caller, and we are absolutely certain that this will have the support and understanding of the vast majority of our population.
Let me run through a comment on the Facebook. Asks, can you tell us what plans the union has for members in terms of distributing the necessary gears in case of an outbreak?
Well, we have called on the employers to provide the gears. The gears are provided by the employers, and we will be prepared. We have offered and still will be prepared to assist in any way possible. We will make our resources available. We are good at mobilizing. We are good at organizing. We are prepared to do that and to call upon our members to get involved.
There's a suggestion to use the Chinese hotel in Woodlands as a quarantine or isolation station.
I guess all ideas could be looked into. Right. We have a good relation with China. Yes,
Right. We have run out of time for this impromptu to the point, but I have to say it was very interesting. Any final words as we wrap up this morning?
Yes, the final words are, one, to repeat, that there was no meeting held between the Grenada Trades Union Council and the Minister of Health or the Ministry of Health, as was claimed by the Minister last night. Secondly, we want to call on the government and all employers to provide the necessary equipment to frontline workers and those who are exposed in public spaces.
Before you go on, I believe the Minister is trying to call in. Let me see if this is him. Good morning.
Hello, no, could I speak to Andrea a second, please?
Not at the moment. Could you call back shortly? We're trying to give the Minister an opportunity to call in.
Okay.
Thanks. So, Minister Steele, if you are still tuned in, could you please call back 435-2041? Everybody else don't call? Sorry, but...
Yeah. Could we give the Minister a chance?
Yes, let's give the Minister a chance. 435-2041. Yes, Andrea, you were saying.
Yes, to provide the necessary equipment. To provide the necessary equipment, we are prepared to distribute and to help with the necessary information that is required in terms of educating our people, and to call upon the population to practice proper hygiene as we try to minimize the impact and spread of the coronavirus.
Okay, we're still waiting on the...
Yeah, I'm waiting. I can stay. It will be good to hear him because we have been trying to speak to him for the past few weeks.
Okay, the phone is ringing. Let's see if this is the Minister. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning to you and good morning to...
Yes, could you cut off and maybe call back in about 5 minutes? We're making way for the Minister to call.
Okay.
Thanks. Yes, Minister Steele, if you're still tuned in, you can call us, 435-2041. We're robbing out of mid-morning buzz, actually, but I guess we can make way for the Minister, 435-2041, Minister Steele. We don't have really much time to spare. I may have to abandon that effort.
No, it will be good for the Minister to speak to the TUC.
I agree.
Yeah.
So to the person who alerted me that he's trying to call, if you can maybe get in contact with him to tell him to call back 435.
I would want him to call while I'm here.
Me too.
Yeah.
So at least we can get
because this is an important matter. This is an extremely important matter. As I said, this is not a contentious issue. It ought not to be contentious, but we need to address the issues up front.
I agree. Okay. Phone is ringing again. Let's see. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm concerned. Hello?
I'm sorry. Could you call back in about 5 minutes? We're trying to make the way for the Minister to call.
Oh, okay.
All right, thanks. Okay, everybody's calling except the Minister, Minister Steele. 435-2041, please, if you're still tuned in. Naz, tell him to call us before Brenda gets here. Today's Thursday? Yes, before Brenda gets here for mid-morning buzz. She's probably just outside the door. Okay, so Nazim said he told him to call. Let's give him maybe about 30 more seconds or so before Brenda throws us out. Auntie Brens, we're just trying, just in case you're in the lobby waiting to come in, we're waiting on the Minister of Health to call us to maybe clarify something. The phone is ringing. Let's see what happens. Good morning. Hello. Okay, the phone cut off. I'm not sure if that was the Minister. 435-2041, Minister Steele. I'll give you about 15 more seconds or so before we would have to cut the program. 435-2041. We are waiting. For those of you who are tuned in, we are waiting on Minister Steele. The phone is not ringing. I may have to leave it here. I am trying to talk slowly just in case. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap up the program.
By the TUC asking still to meet with the Minister of Health so that the unions can address our specific concerns.
Okay, let's see. Good morning.
Morning, greetings, Blossom.
Sorry, could you cut off and call us back shortly? We're waiting on Minister Steele to call.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was not Minister Steele again. Okay, I would have to cut the program here because I'm teething out to Auntie Brenda time. Thank you guys so much for joining us on To The Point. We thank Mr. Lewis for coming through. I'm keeping my eyes on the ringer in the meantime. Thank you to Mr. Lewis for coming through this morning to clarify a statement made. We were giving the Minister of Health, Honorable Nicholas Steele, a chance to call and maybe shed some light, but he hasn't called as yet. Maybe we'll catch him at another time. Thank you once again for tuning in. That's the end of my time today. Brenda is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz. Until then, have a safe, enjoyable Thursday. Have a good one. Be safe. Continue to practice proper hygiene. Remember, the virus has been detected in Jamaica, 3 in Cuba, as near as St. Vincent, Guyana to the south. So please be careful as I bid thee all a good Thursday. Thank you very much.